Welcome to the lesson plan modeling, especially for lesson plan 1. So this might be a little lengthy, but again, you have that capability to pause, rewind, and endure my monotone drone voice. Okay, we want to go back to Reflective Practitioner. And when we talked about Reflective Practitioner, we began with trying to understand what is reflective practice, being conscious for your craft. So let's stop there for a moment. When we were planning our text set, we wanted to be proactive about our teaching. And then in your teaching, you're in action. And you want to reflect while you're teaching. However, while you're lesson planning, these two kind of combined. So you want to be very proactive when designing your first lesson plan or any lesson plan. But then you also need to be reflective. When you began developing your text sets, you just started getting into the classrooms that you're observing. Now that you're into the classrooms and you've made some great observations of the classroom you're going to teach your ELA lesson plan in, now you're able to take that in action based on those observations and apply that reflection within your lesson plans. So not only will your lesson plans be proactive and you're planning in the for-action reflective stage, but you're also able to reflect on what students you have and what ability ranges and the readers and writers and thinkers within the classroom for that in-action. So here you have your in-action. There's our for-action. We've already looked at that. But let's look at the in-action. Checking on comprehension through guided questions and practice. Adjusting pace of lesson, adjusting class schedule, reteaching. However, you kind of know some of this stuff by getting to know your students when you came in to start your observations. Also by watching the teacher that is your mentor teacher and how they adjust for pace and class schedule and check for understanding through comprehension, those guided questions and practice. You get to see that reteach. So begin thinking about this as you're going through the lesson planning process. Okay. One moment as I'm closing all things out. So now I want us to go over lesson plan directions. They're laid out for you. You have them whatever you need. Please remember, you want to focus on these literacy standards. So taking a look at this, you only should be either teaching the literacy strategies teaching the literacy skills through these strategies. KWL Plus, double entry diary, anticipation guides, or magnet summaries. These are the only strategies that I may see. Pick one that is relevant to your lesson, and that's what you're using. All right. As you're lesson planning, I want you to think about what do you need to turn in. This will be within your lesson plan. This will be within your lesson plan. This will be within your lesson plan, and I will say of the past semesters that I've taught this, summary is easily 5 points. However, it is very easily forgotten. So let me tell you where I'm getting all this from. If you remember, you developed your text set. Okay? When you developed your text set, you had the summary, the introduction of your text set. That's where you get the information from your learners. Then you go here, and you remember you had to summarize a little bit of the skill, and then you had to summarize the strategy that you're going to use to teach the literacy skill. Well, you can easily use all of that information within this summary section. It's just a copy and paste, maybe a little rewording to make sure flow's there. Okay. This is a separate attachment. You're actually going to turn in the annotated reading of your strategy and skill this week. That's what I'm asking you to do when I say read and text code the comprehension strategy for lesson 1. So going back to lesson 1, you should either read and text code about KWL Plus, read and text code about the double entry diary, or read and text code about the anticipation guides, read and text code magnet summaries. So many times teachers, I want to use this, and just look at the template or the chart. But there's so much meat within the actual reading of the strategy. They're not very long as far as page number. Take the moment to text code that strategy that you've chosen for lesson 1, and you will submit it this week. That's it. That's where you're going to get these 5 points from. Okay? We want to know you know how to teach the strategy and the skill before you teach your lesson. Here are procedures. Procedures are clear, detailed. Student expected responses, teacher talk. For example, I get that you're going into the classroom and teachers are telling you it doesn't look like this. But I want you to remember lesson planning will not look the same for you as it does for veteran teachers. Veteran teachers already know what to say, already know what's going to be expected from the students, already know how their teacher talk is going to look because they're veteran teachers. You're a new teacher. So therefore, you don't know what to expect. I have a student teacher this semester. She's running into these difficulties. And so we talk about you need to know what the students are going to expect or what they're estimated to say or what you expect them to say so you know the misconceptions. Do note, you're going to create a work sample of the strategy. This is a separate attachment. Here it is. When your lesson's taught, you're going to actually, that's where your student samples are going to come from. Let me go back. I cannot make this any more plainer. If you decide to do a KWL Plus, then I want you to actually show me a teacher example. So whatever the students are having to produce, I want you to stop whatever you're doing and produce it. That way you can already have worked out the problems with the strategy that you need to go ahead and take care of. How in the world does that strategy connect to that skill for literacy? And what are some roadblocks that your students might encounter that you need to go ahead and plan for throughout the modeling and the guiding? That's where you make a teacher created a sample. As you become that veteran teacher, you don't need to make those samples because you know what it looks like. You know what to expect, but you're not there yet. You'll get there, though. All right, so I do expect to see that, a teacher-created example. Differentiation. There are 3 areas that you have to highlight. I need to see in your lesson plan the ELA students, what are you going to do for them? The high ability students, what are you going to do for them? And the struggling students, what are you going to do for them? I would not like to see them the same items. So whatever you have the ELA and struggling, they need to be different. Hence differentiation. Instructional materials. Please cite in APA format. I've given you APA guide. If you need more help, I'm online Monday and Wednesday night. You can email me if you're unsure. Okay? Don't forget to include your quantity too. That's been an interesting, you need to know how many materials you need. Be specific. If you need notebook paper, 1 per student, and so how many students? Be specific in what you need to know or what you need to have. Assessments. Not only is it enough to tell me how you will assess the students, but give me a detailed description. of how the assessment is going to take place. And then I need to have the assessment attached. That means your rubric and your checklist, those need to be attached, those assessment pieces. Also, whatever you're going to assess, you also need to make one. That way you know in advance what are you trying to assess and where do you need to help the students in scaffolding, in your modeling, and that we do it together. So think about it, that guided practice. All right, so you're doing, this has already been done when you actually gave us the format of your lesson plan on, that's what you're going to do on the discussion board when it's time to submit in module 8, that discussion board. That's the 2 points there, okay? Also, you're going to have to eventually take your lesson plan and switch it to task stream format. However, there's so many changes that you have to go through, you want to use a draft, and it's easy to copy and paste. So let's look at, so we already know the literacy strategies, just making sure we know everything that we need to know. I sent you a template. The template looks like this. You can also find it in the module for you. It may look a little different than some of the examples that I'm about to show you, but the formatting is different, but the concept is still the same, okay? I tried to make it easier for the reader when developing. Notice summative at the close of the unit. How will you? Think about that. Materials, APA format. So I hope that helps. What I want to take time is to go through what this actually looks like. Okay, so hang on just a second. Let me show you. So here is stage 3 learning plan. And in my stage 3 learning plan, I'm making lesson 1. I don't want to see a writing lesson, vocabulary lesson. No, no, no. I want to see a content area literacy comprehension lesson. These strategies come specifically from the Buell text and focus on comprehension. Notice my objectives here. And of course I need to go back and edit this one. I pulled up the older one that I have. Alright, and I've given you a brief instructional summary. However, I can easily copy and paste this, but the lesson plan is much more advanced. Let me show you what I mean. So still copy and paste on some of these items, but you're going to go in more detail. Let me give you an example. Here's an example of a lesson plan. Of course, the formatting may be a little different. Notice how the design is created. Notice this summary is missing. See, very easy. That's why I changed the template. I think the template was it. But I want you to not pay attention to that, but pay attention to what you see now. Do you notice this is the introduction and how detailed it is? How specific the questions are? What the teacher will say? What the students might say? Same with the I do. Look at the detail. It is very, very explicit as to what you're going to say. What will the students say? The text-dependent questions that were made. This person, when they developed this lesson plan, they had to go through several times and say, okay, did it flow? I remember when developing these, I actually had to go through and rehearse. This is a great rehearsal practice for me to stand up and say, like, teach the class in my own room, in my own home, and see how would my words play out. Look at the guided instruction, how detailed it is. And again, this is not the very best lesson that I pulled out. But this is a very detailed very detailed on what will be said. That's why I pulled it out. And again, this is her draft. There's lots of editing and revisions that we've went through with this lesson plan. But notice the detail. Would I have organized it just a little differently as far as spacing to help my eyes? Yes. But that wasn't her. She didn't need that. So only do it if it's you. Look at what the independent, look at the closure. Very, very important. Okay? Be very careful and make sure that your differentiation is not the same. Okay? This is the enrichment side. You don't have to go as detailed as before, during, and after for the ELA and struggling and reteaching. So just be very careful about that. If you need more help, you should have resources from what I've been told from your previous courses. If you don't know how to differentiate, let me know. I have great resources, okay? All right, so that's what it looks like in a draft format. Then you're going to submit your draft in Module 8, which you'll submit for peer review on March the 1st. So Module 8, by March the 1st, you'll have your draft uploaded, and that's in the Word document template. Then in Module 9, which is March the 12th, you're going to submit your lesson plan 1 for grading. But that submission must be done in task stream format. If you're not familiar with task stream, that's okay. I'm going to walk you through task stream come Module 8. However, I wanted you to go ahead and see a very brief of how detailed it is and the structure of it. Still, look at the detail. This is management. Look at the introduction. Look at how detailed this is. The student expectant responses. What is the teacher saying? The text-dependent questions. Okay? And of course, you're going to have more in the directed instruction. And as you go throughout, you will have less. There's the guided. There's the collaborative. There's the independent. So I come to you today saying, do not wait to the last minute to develop this lesson plan. I will be able to tell if it's very last minute. And last minute grades will not help. I'm imploring you and begging you, go through it. Act it out in your own home. If you have children, sit down and teach them the lesson. This is going to help you better yourself to move into a more experienced teacher role and be that reflective practitioner. So I hope I've helped tonight by showing you how to go through and develop your lesson plan. Use the structure that I've given you in the template. Use the directions. Use your rubric. Come see me and talk to me and collaborate. Email me. Ask me questions in the discussion board. I'm here to help you. If there's a video that you would like to see me go over as far as modeling for you or guiding you through some type of planning or whatever in the classroom, if you need your strategy, let's say you picked a KWL Plus and you need it modeled because you just don't understand how to use it, not a problem. Send me a message. Let me know. I'm here to help and support you in any way. Thanks for listening and being so attentive. I hope that I have not bored you, but have given you some insightful information. So stay tuned to the next edition and have a great, great time lesson planning. Night.